Okay. Well, everyone, I hope you got my email a little while ago. We're going to touch some key points that were intended, and sorry, that's my big dog, that were intended to be our lesson this morning because apparently we're having some troubles with Zoom from NKU. So let me take a quick look here at what we were reading and see. I have it in book version, and we'll cover what some of the essentials were in that reading. So you have written, hopefully by now and submitted by late last night, your first writing piece. And I will be giving you some feedback here shortly and this morning if you don't have any yet. And you can make a quick revision for the final 5 points, okay? Now, what we have coming next is more about just your writing experiences, but a persuasive or motivating personal experience from your life. That would be a narrative story, and you will use narration. And we have some keywords here, which are narration, that's equivalent to storytelling, the narrator, which is equivalent to the storyteller, and then something that's told from a subjective versus an objective point of view. And so from a story that's subjective, you build the details. It tends to be more fictional, and something that's objective tends to come from facts. So that's going to be based a lot upon the type of story you want to tell, and both of those can be expressed through any voice. Now, we have the voice that you will use. You can see right here, first, second, or third person. First person is basically I. I hope you can read my handwriting on here. It's a lot better when I have an actual whiteboard to write on. First person is based around the I or the we. Second person is based around you. And third person, would be he, she, they, them, all of that. Now, for academic writing, you want to definitely avoid second person at all costs. Now, this is a lesson that I teach, a lesson that I learned a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure what other instructors believe, but that's kind of where we'll stick with the types of assignments we're going to write in this class. Now, so this would have a big stop sign or a no sign drawn through it, okay? And then you probably saw a page in the reading that we had that covered some of the key questions. The 5 W's and the H that are answered in your detailed story. So these would be what happened, first W, who took part, second W, when did it happen, where did it happen, why did it happen, and how did it happen. So those are pretty basic. Sometimes it can all be very, very detailed and very descriptive throughout, or if it needs to be a more concise, essential story, it can be more of a summary. And then right after that, you'll see this in the page where you were reading. There was a reference to scene versus summary. So basically, the visualization of scenes will include a whole lot more detail, a whole lot more adjective, and a whole lot more description. Okay? And then when you tell a summary, tell a story by summary, things will be a lot more short and concise, but they will also come to the conclusion a lot faster that you want to provide or present to your readers. And this is something that we can continue to work on. Definitely, I know you all are welcome to me. I'm going to have office hours this afternoon. And the first thing to worry about is to take some of this reading, okay, and also take those first few pages from our textbook, which were in chapter 3, about writing a literacy narrative, because those tell you both about page 61, okay, and page 69 and 71. Those are not your assignments, but they do give you a little bit of insight as to what is essential in telling a story. Whether you're telling the story, of your writing inventory, like we had do last night, or you're telling the story of your personal narrative, which will be due next week. Okay, so some of the things in page 61 that you can think about are purpose, audience, tone, genre, and context. So what's the purpose of the story you're telling, or the purpose of the assignment that you're writing, your audience, and quite honestly, think sometimes more about who would be your audience than just me as your teacher. I may not be your only audience. And then the tone, does it need to be a serious or informative tone? Or possibly it's something along the lines of you're writing your narrative, your personal narrative, and the story that you experienced when you experienced it was more of a fun, lighthearted event, and you want the reader to experience that. So, there are ways to make sure that the language expresses that fun, both the adjectives and the verbs, and things like that. There's no reason to keep any one written piece very dry. Okay, now the genre. Basically, we know fiction and nonfiction. Okay, so anything about your own life is going to be based on nonfiction. There's no reason to open up any uncomfortable portion of your life in it. If you need to be a little bit safe about what you hide, you're welcome to do so. Okay, and trust me, while you're working on it this week before it's due next weekend, feel free to contact me with questions. It's not a big deal. And then another thing to remember is that, as you'll see in the PDF that was attached to the reading, verbs are very important, okay? A focus on the verbs you use are very important. And they show you on that one page a lot about active verbs, using strong verbs, and staying in a consistent verb tense, okay? So you'll be able to see some examples of those. And the way they provided these are very, very effective. Sometimes it's hard to think of, and it's something that's much easier caught when you go through and revise your draft. So you've got, if you see here on what you all are looking at in a PDF, which is page 69 of a book that I have, in a week, the week verb of a statement, the wind made an awful noise, okay? Now, it's much stronger. Rather than made, the wind roared around the house and rattled the trees. So that's telling what the noise is or where the noise came from. So it's not just a noise, but it's almost like using those verbs to create an experience, okay? So the narrator, in this second case, much stronger, experiences something rather than just here's a noise, okay? So let's try in the second part, there are forms of make and forms of be that can sometimes just be a little too simple or a little too weak, which we saw in that first example. So the noises were alarming to us. And you'll also know that's, we'll also come to a passive verb later. Now, the noises alarmed us. That's actually much more vivid if you think about it, because the verb, alarmed. If you think about an alarm, it's much louder, it's much more frightening, and it's much more sort of like a call to action, I guess you would say. Think about the alarms that you have. You've got the fire alarm in your house if something has happened. You've got the alarms on police cars, fire trucks, things like that, that call people out of their way, okay? So, and another one where we have, they call weak passive and strong active as two options. And of course, you don't want passive voice just kind of in and of itself as weak. So they refer to the following statement as weak passive. We were besieged in the basement by the wind as the water at our feet was swelled by the rain. Okay. That's kind of where we're besieged and was swelled are passive. forms of the verb, okay? So you want, even if they're not live nouns or subjects of the statement, they still want to have active verbs, both the wind and the rain, okay? So a strong active statement, and you can see this when you take a look back at reading this page, is the wind besieged us in the basement, and you're sort of making the entire sentence a little more concise, as the rain swelled the water at our feet, okay? So we already know us, or we are in the basement, and the water's at our feet. That's just kind of, as you read through concisely, those are informed. And then the wind besieged and the rain swelled. So both the wind and the rain are the subjects, and then us and the water are the objects of those two statements. And it sort of makes it a lot shorter, more concise, and still more vivid. Okay? So we've got all of that sort of started. And one of the things that I'm going to do is we have our personal narrative coming up. Our personal narrative coming up this coming weekend. Now, I hope everyone, I know a lot of you had them in early yesterday, but I stopped working about 7 or 8. Okay, so any of your writing inventory that was not in by 8, I will go ahead, take a look through, provide a few comments for feedback, and then you can go in and revise for the final 5 points of the assignment. Note at the bottom of it, the final 5 points come from going through, revising it, and resubmitting it, okay? That hopefully will be a little bit of practice, because as we move a little farther down the semester, you all will be doing some peer review for each other, okay? And in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking some more about how to peer review, what some of the best comments are to provide in peer review and things like that. So we've got our week 2 assignment, narrative of a persuasive moment. Okay. Now, let's see here. Let me make sure I've got this right. So we will have the outline of your personal narrative due by Sunday night. And if I may have, and this is, sorry, my, okay, so yes, this is, if you go to, and this is a troubling, I'm in YouTube trying to record a video for you, so I can't share my screen like I normally would in Zoom. But you will go to, under all of the items for week 2, okay? We'll have a discussion. Our discussion is to simply respond to narration, okay? Respond to what we've read, what I've talked about here. If any of you come to me with emails or with conversations you'd like to have this afternoon during my office hours, that's perfectly fine. Think about narration, what your narrative is going to look like, and go to the week 2 discussion, which is due Wednesday night by 11:59 p.m., okay? Now, by Sunday night, I need you to have the outline of your personal narrative created and submitted, okay? By Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., just the way this past week went. So hopefully that makes sense, okay? And hopefully our loss of Zoom has not killed our connection for the week, okay? So if you are still having any trouble with access to the reading or anything else, I'm always here by email. I'm always here on Teams. So none of that should be a problem, okay? And I will be posting this in Canvas, and I will send it out in email as well, okay? So have a wonderful Monday, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the week. I look forward to talking to every single one of you independently as the semester goes on. Talk to you soon.